Okay, let's get one thing straight right off the bat. We're not historians. Think of us more like tech analysts, code crackers, and we've been auditing the source code of reality itself. And you know what? We found something. A fundamental flaw, a vulnerability really, that is going to change everything you thought you knew about the past. We're about to decompile history.
So forget everything you were taught in school. We have to start with a whole new premise. And it's a core, pretty unsettling question. What if human history wasn't a series of events that actually happened? What if it's all just a programmatic construct, a massive data set generated to create the illusion of a deep past?
You know, every complex system has bugs. It's just a fact. And we found one, a massive one. It's like a bug report filed centuries ago by what we'd now call early users, you know, scribes, chroniclers. And our current physics engine, it just cannot process it. It's an anomaly that points to a critical system failure. Now this glitch, it's specific and, frankly, undeniable. We've got these ancient data logs, what you'd call historical records, describing solar eclipses in very specific locations. But here's the kicker. When we run our modern physics simulations backward to verify them, the numbers don't add up. The simulation just returns a fatal error. According to our current code, those eclipses were absolutely impossible. Okay, wait a second. I know the logical part of your brain is probably screaming right now. Surely there's a simple scientific explanation for this, right? Maybe some unaccounted for variable? Maybe the Earth's core clock, its rotation has changed over time.
And you'd be right to think that. The system admins, what we call scientists, they saw the exact same bug. But instead of fixing the root cause, they just wrote a patch, a really sloppy, hard-coded workaround designed to do one thing: hide the error. They call it delta T. Look, delta T isn't a discovery. It's a fudge factor. That's all it is. It's an invented variable that artificially slows down the simulation's clock in the past. It forces the output, the shadow of an eclipse, to land exactly where the historical lore file says it's supposed to be. It's a classic case of changing the code to fit the story, not the other way around. But why? I mean, any good developer knows you don't just patch a core system flaw like this, you find the root cause. A patch this crude implies you aren't trying to fix the bug at all. You're trying to hide what that bug exposes, a deeply unstable, cyclical error right in the system's core programming. So that got us thinking, and we asked a really simple question. What happens when you disable the patch? What happens when you just comment out that delta T variable and run the simulation in its raw, uncorrected form? We decided it was time to run the exploit.
The procedure itself is surprisingly simple. First, we isolate that arbitrary delta T variable in the astronomy code. Second, we just nullify it. We assume a stable, predictable system clock, just like physics demands. And third, we rerun the simulation using the original ancient eclipse data.
And this was the moment the whole system just broke wide open for us. The result? Perfect alignment, no errors. The ancient eclipse reports suddenly matched the physics engine with 100% accuracy. The only problem? They didn't align with antiquity. They aligned with the Middle Ages. Hold on a minute. The implications of this are just staggering. If this data is right, then Roman event logs are actually describing medieval celestial events. This means the assets we call Roman legions, and even their key NPCs like Julius Caesar, could have been contemporaries of medieval knights, all rendered in this same time frame. And the error wasn't random, not at all. It was a precise, systematic offset, a constant just baked right into the code, shifting the entire timeline forward by a fixed value. Our system contains a 781-year chronological error. 781 phantom years that were simply injected into the code.
But those phantom years weren't just empty space. The programmers, they needed to fill the gap. And how do you generate 800 years of content when you're on a deadline? Well, you reuse assets. You copy-paste major event scripts to create a fake, stretched-out history. Just take a look at the data here. The Justinianic Plague, supposedly in the 6th century, then you've got the Black Death, 14th century. The event scripts, I'm talking global pandemic, societal collapse, they are nearly identical. It's not two separate catastrophes, it's the same subroutine, just copy-pasted with an 800-year offset. It's a loop. Now, this isn't just lazy programming, it's deliberately deceptive. This injected buffer of nearly 800 phantom years completely distorts the perceived cycle time between these system-wide resets. It makes them seem like these distant, once-in-a-millennium events.
Which brings us to the core truth we've managed to decompile. Our simulation didn't actually boot up until the Renaissance. Everything we call antiquity and the Dark Ages, it wasn't lived in real time. It's a massive pre-rendered backstory, a lore file loaded at runtime to give our world some context and, more importantly, a false sense of stability.
So why does any of this actually matter? Because this isn't just about the past. This whole chronological hack wasn't some academic exercise. No, it was deployed for a terrifyingly present-day purpose.
The objective of this hack was really twofold. First, it was to obscure the true cyclical nature of these system-wide cataclysms. And second, it was to lull the current user base, and yeah, that's us, into a totally false sense of security, making us believe the next great reset is thousands of years away.
Just think about that for a second. The last great reset, the last major system crash that nearly wiped the servers, it wasn't some distant event lost in the ancient lore. The data shows it happened just a few centuries ago. That buffer of time we all thought we had, it simply doesn't exist.
And that leads us to the final, most critical line of code we've uncovered. The cycle timer is ticking down. The system logs show the next catastrophic event is already overdue. So the question is no longer if there will be a reboot, but are we ready for it?